Hello and welcome to HW News English. I am Shubham Chauhan. We are coming to you live with the biggest update at this hour. India and Pakistan have confirmed that there is a ceasefire that is now in place 2 days after hectic sort of violence and attacks at the India-Pakistan border. You saw this play out over the last couple of nights, especially post India did Operation Sindoor. India and Pakistan have now confirmed that there is a ceasefire in place. Now, I'll just quickly give you some context because the picture has changed drastically in about 15, 20 minutes. It started at about 5:40 Indian Standard Time when US President Donald Trump said that there has been a ceasefire. He's been able to do a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. And you can see the tweet on your screen. He said, after a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I am pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Once this tweet came out, this was put out on Truth Social, which is Donald Trump's social media platform. And then, of course, the official handle of the US president on social media platform X put out this statement. And soon, minutes after this statement came out, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, the United States, he confirmed the development saying over the past 48 hours, JD Vance and I have engaged with senior Indian and Pakistani officials, including Prime Ministers Narendra Modi, Shehbaz Sharif, External Affairs Minister Jay Shankar, Chief of Army Staff Asim Munir, and NSA Ajit Doval and Asim Malik. I am pleased to announce the governments of India and Pakistan have agreed to an immediate ceasefire and to start talks on a broad set of issues at a neutral site. We commend Prime Ministers Modi and Sharif on their wisdom, prudence, and statesmanship in choosing the path of peace. Now, this development has taken many by surprise because just at about 10 a.m. this morning, you had a briefing by three people from the government. So you had one India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and then two representatives from the armed forces who described at length what happened last night in terms of Pakistani drone attacks that were intercepted, except for that one drone which fell in Punjab's Firozpur. But tensions were escalating by the minute post Operation Sindoor. And suddenly now you have the United States of America saying that they have brokered a ceasefire deal between India and Pakistan. Once the US confirmed it, you had Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar confirming this development, saying that Pakistan and India have agreed to a ceasefire with immediate effect. Pakistan has always strived for peace and security in the region without compromising on sovereignty and territorial integrity. Now, at about 3 or 4 p.m., there was a flash, there was a news break that came in that there was a briefing by the Ministry of External Affairs scheduled for 6 p.m. Now, like I said, press briefings have been happening for the last couple of days by the MEA and the Ministry of Defense. The first press briefing happened this morning. So it was look forward as to what was going to happen in the 6 p.m. press conference. And just 20 minutes before that, you have US President Donald Trump saying that there is a ceasefire that has been put in place. And now we will play out a short statement, hardly a 30-second statement from India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, who confirmed that this ceasefire is in place starting 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Listen in to what Vikram.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very brief statement to make. Following that, as you know, there'll be a briefing by my colleagues from the military. The Director General of Military Operations of Pakistan called the Director General of Military Operations of India at 15:35 hours earlier this afternoon. It was agreed between them that both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today. Instructions have been given on both sides to give effect to this understanding. The Directors General of Military Operations will talk again on the 12th of May at 1200 hours. Thank you.
So that was India's foreign secretary. Now it's important to note what exactly Vikram Misri has said. He said that the Pakistan Directorate General of Military Operations called up the Indian side at about 3:30 p.m. In the afternoon, and the Pakistani DGMO decided that all firing, land, sea, ground, everything at the border will stop. And in fact, as I speak, there is also a tweet coming in from the foreign minister of India, Subramaniam Jaishankar, has made a statement on this ceasefire. And I'll read out the statement. Again, India and Pakistan have today worked out understanding on stoppage of firing and military action. India has consistently maintained a firm and uncompromising stance against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. It will continue to do so. And now, as we speak, there is a lot of chatter about who gets the credit for this ceasefire. Is it the United States? Is it India? Is it India and Pakistan? There will be a lot of chatter, expect chatter to happen in the days and weeks to follow. In fact, some of the reporters who cover the foreign policy, be to cover India and its foreign policy, have now started putting out comments citing government sources. And this is what these reporters are putting out, citing government sources, Indian government sources, that this was done at the military level between India and Pakistan. But regardless, this is a major breakthrough, whichever way you see it, on the face of it. At least as things stand currently, both sides have confirmed that there is going to be a ceasefire that will be in place. What we are also given to understand that the Indian military, India's armed forces, will have a press briefing shortly to give more details on what is going to happen, and especially with regards to what is happening, what will change militarily on ground. What we are expected to see in the next few minutes is Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, someone who's been addressing the press in the last couple of days, and with her Colonel Sophia Qureshi, who's also been really the face of Operation Sindoor, post Operation Sindoor, and the briefings that have taken place, along with India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. They will be present at this press briefing by the Indian military, and so will be a representative from the Navy, from the Indian Navy. So that briefing is also expected to start shortly, and we will keep bringing you the updates with regards to this. But this is the story that we have. Something that changed spectacularly a little past 5:30 p.m. There was this tweet by Donald Trump, followed by Marco Rubio, and then Pakistan and then India confirmed that there is a ceasefire in place. Remember, post 22nd April, what we have been seeing, India on its part was very clear that there is no place for terrorism, and India will respond strongly to any and every act of terror on its soil, and that New Delhi will not take these things lying down. 26 lives were lost, 26 innocent lives were lost in Pahalgam, in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, on the 22nd of April, following which 2 weeks after that, 2 weeks since the Pahalgam attack, India carried out Operation Sindoor, when 9 terror sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir were demolished, were targeted, and successfully struck by India's armed forces. Then, over the last couple of days, you had this massive escalation by Pakistan at the border, where there have been multiple ceasefire violations for about 13 to 14 nights straight. And then came the big escalation last night, where drones and missiles were launched. In fact, the night before that, that's when really the big escalation happened, an attack in Jammu and really the north and west part of India. So starting with Jammu and Kashmir, going all the way up to Punjab, Rajasthan, and Gujarat, Bhuj in Gujarat, starting from Srinagar all the way down to Bhuj. The border districts, border villages were on high alert. There were also blackouts that were in place, given the tense situation. There were some casualties as well. Remember, Poonch saw a handful number of people being killed in this shelling and unprovoked firing by Pakistan across the line of control. There have been civilian casualties on India's side following Pakistan's escalation, but India on its part has made it very clear that their target is terrorism. Their target is eliminating terror infrastructure, and terrorism, something that India has been a victim of. And now what you see is a ceasefire, something that a lot of people were hoping for deep down, that both sides do not escalate further. But what has made all of this very interesting from an international affairs, from a geopolitical standpoint, is the fact that what role did the United States of America play in this ceasefire? Just if you can, I'll just ask the producer if you can still play that bite of India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri on what he had to say about the ceasefire. Let's just hear him. If you're joining this broadcast, here's what Vikram Misri had to say.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very brief statement to make. Following that, as you know, there'll be a briefing by my colleagues from the military. The Director General of Military Operations of Pakistan called the Director General of Military Operations of India at 15:35 hours earlier this afternoon. It was agreed between them that both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today. Instructions have been given on both sides to give effect to this understanding. The Directors General of Military Operations will talk again on the 12th of May at 1200 hours. Thank you.
So that is what Vikram Misri said, that representatives, the DGMOs from both India and Pakistan will speak next on the 12th of May at 12 p.m. If we can just, yes, I've already shown the tweet of Dr. Jaishankar. If you can just have it off the screen, yes. So like I was saying, in the last few hours, like I said, I started with the briefing of the Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Defense early this morning, where India confirmed that they had targeted about 6 military bases in Pakistan, key military bases of Pakistan. One of them was in Rawalpindi, a few kilometers away from the Pakistani Army headquarters. This was following the dramatic escalation by Pakistan at the line of control and the northern and the western frontiers of India. Once that press conference was over, there were statements and videos put out by the Indian Army that the Indian Army has struck terror launch pads in Pakistan, and they put out visuals, 1.5, 2-minute visuals, or 2-minute long visuals of how these terror camps, these terror launch pads were destroyed by the Indian Armed Forces. A few hours later, there were some source-based reports, and I will just underline that bit. There were source-based reports that the Modi government has decided that any future act of terror will be considered an act of war. And I, in fact, read out what Kanchan Gupta, who is the senior advisor at the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, had posted at 3:51 p.m. He said, India has decided that any future act of terror will be considered an act of war against India and will be responded accordingly. So that was looked at as one of the decisions by the Modi, not looked at, it was one of the decisions by the Modi government taken this afternoon. And then at about 5:30, 5:35 Indian Standard Time, you have this tweet from US President Donald Trump, where he says that this is where things stand. United States has brokered a ceasefire, has brokered truce between India and Pakistan. Now, how New Delhi and Islamabad both look at this more so for New Delhi in terms of the credit for this ceasefire, and I'm deliberately re-emphasizing that issue because you will see a lot of commentary and analysis on that. Was that how big a role did the Americans play? Did the Americans play a role at all or not? India says, as of now, India says that the DGMOs, this happened at a military level, where the Pakistani DGMO, Director General of Military Operations, contacted his Indian counterpart, following which it was decided that both sides will de-escalate and there will be a ceasefire starting 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time. That is the information we have for you at this point. And in fact, a lot of it we will also see play out in the next few minutes, where the Ministry of Defense representatives from the three, that's the Army, Indian Air Force, and the Navy, come out and brief the media on perhaps more details on this ceasefire that has just been announced about 30 minutes back. First announced by the US and then confirmed by Pakistan and India. So that is where things stand. We are still waiting for an official comment from the Ministry of Defense. And remember, that has been over the last couple of days, especially post Operation Sindoor, and the kind of discourse that has played out on social media. It's just been an overwhelmingly humongous amount of information that came out, misinformation, disinformation, and just it did not look like tensions would die down, at least for the next few days, at least, given how things were shaping up. And everyone had that inkling, everyone had that thought, everyone had that question that whether India and Pakistan will officially go to war, because the scenes that we were seeing play out were really unprecedented and not seen perhaps since the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. Yes, you had the Kargil in 1999, but the escalation, the moves, the diplomatic moves that were played, followed by, of course, the military action that we saw on ground from India with Operation Sindoor, where they were clear that the target is terrorist sites. The target is eliminating terrorism and tackling terrorism to ensure that what we saw on the 22nd of April in Pahalgam isn't repeated. And Pakistan said that what India has done is not right. This is an act of war. And following which, Islamabad started its sort of response, its retaliation, targeting Indian civilians and Indian military targets with its missiles, with its drones, with its weapons. And the visuals we saw, of course, a lot of it is unverified, and that is something that we told you about, that we will, unless we confirm these visuals, these whatever strands of information we are getting, we will not play them out for you. And that has been our endeavor for the last couple of days, to get you the accurate information. But yes, having said that, there were visuals coming in of sort of escalation. Okay, I think we have
Operation Sindoor and related developments. We have with us
yes.
Commodore Ravi Nair, Colonel Sophia Qureshi, and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh to brief you. With that, I hand over the floor to Commodore Nair.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As the Foreign Secretary had said, you're aware there's an understanding that has been reached to stop all military activities at sea, on the air and on the land. And the Indian Navy, Indian Army, and the Indian Air Force have been instructed to adhere to this understanding. Since the tragic events at Pahalgam, you're aware that our responses have been measured and very responsible. Details of these have been shared with you over the past few days through our various press briefings. What has also happened is that there is a significant amount of misinformation that is being undertaken from the other side. And as a professional military organization, we thought it is also our duty to dispel those misinformation aspects, as also state the facts of the case as they stand. Towards that, I will now hand over to my colleague, Colonel Qureshi.
नमस्कार। अब मैं आपको पाकिस्तान की मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन कैंपेन के बारे में अवगत कराऊंगी। पहला, पाकिस्तान ने यह क्लेम किया कि उसने अपने JF-17 से हमारे S-400 व ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल बेस को नुकसान पहुंचाया, जो कि बिल्कुल गलत है। दूसरा, उसका यह भी मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन कैंपेन था कि हमारी एयरफील्ड्स, जो कि सिरसा, जम्मू, पठानकोट, बठिंडा, नलिया और भुज में है, ये उसका मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन भी बहुत गलत है। तीसरा, पाकिस्तान के मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन कैंपेन के मुताबिक हमारे एम्यूनिशन डम्प्स जो चंडीगढ़ और बियास में है, उसका डैमेज हुआ। यह भी बिल्कुल गलत है। हमने आपको मॉर्निंग ब्रीफिंग में बताया था विद फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर के साथ कि ये सारी चीजें बिल्कुल सही सलामत हैं। अब मैं आपको बताना चाहती हूं कि पाकिस्तान के एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में ये बात की गई थी कि उनके सीनियर मिलिट्री ऑफिसर्स जो कि पूरी तरह से ये भ्रामक हैं और तथ्यों से दूर हैं कि पाकिस्तान की ओर से ये झूठा आरोप भी लगाया जा रहा है कि भारतीय सेना ने मस्जिदों को नुकसान पहुंचाया। मैं इससे बिल्कुल स्पष्ट करना चाहती हूं कि इंडिया इज ए सेक्युलर नेशन और हमारी सेना भारत के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल वैल्यूज की एक बहुत प्यारी झलक है। इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस ने पाकिस्तान को बहुत भारी नुकसान पहुंचाया, उनके मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स को, चाहे वो लैंड एसेट्स हो या फिर उनके एयर एसेट्स। यही नहीं, इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस ने पाकिस्तान की एयरफील्ड्स स्कर्दू, जकोबाबाद, सरगोदा और भुलारी को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया। इसके अलावा पाकिस्तान के एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम, रडार सिस्टम, उनको भी एयर स्पेस में अनटेनेबल किया। यह भी बताना चाहती हूं कि लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल के पास पाकिस्तान के कमांड एंड कंट्रोल लॉजिस्टिक इंस्टॉलेशंस और उनके मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स, मिलिट्री पर्सनल्स का इतना भारी नुकसान हुआ कि पाकिस्तान की ऑफेंसिव और डिफेंसिव कैपेबिलिटी को नष्ट कर दिया गया। अंत में मैं फिर से ये बात दोहराना चाहूंगी, इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस पूरी तरह से तैयार है, सतर्क है और भारत की संप्रभुता और अखंडता की रक्षा के लिए पूरी तरह से कमिटेड है। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
So several attempts were made by Pakistan on spreading a misinformation campaign, as we have seen for the last few days. There were attempts made to say that our S-400 at a northern base was destroyed, which was completely false, and that it was destroyed by a JF-17. It was a false information. Also, that the BrahMos installation was attacked and it was destroyed was false. The destruction of airfields at Srinagar, Jammu, Pathankot, Bhuj, Nalia, etc. was also a false claim. The forward ammunition dump at Chandigarh and Beas are also fit and fine, and we showed you these in the photographs in the morning briefing today. Also, there was a certain different way of miscampaign that the Pakistan conducted by its press conferences, which was conducted in a manner which were completely misleading and devoid of facts. Pakistan has been spreading fabricated allegations that the Indian armed forces have targeted mosques. Let us make this very clear here that India is a secular nation and the Indian armed forces are a reflection of our constitutional values. We hold every place of worship of all faiths in the highest regard. Our operations have been aimed exclusively at terrorist camps and facilities being used for anti-India activities. No religious sites, I repeat, no religious sites have been targeted by the Indian Armed Forces. Over the past few days, as we have seen, Pakistan all has suffered very heavy and unsustainable losses after it has given us an unprovoked attack on our installations. It has suffered losses in both land and air. There has been an extensive damage to the crucial Pakistani air bases like Skardu, Sargodha, Jacobabad, and Bholari. In addition, a loss of AD weapon system and radars made the defense of Pakistani airspace untenable. Across the line of control, extensive and precise damage to military infrastructure and command control centers and logistic installations. In addition to that, 2 military personnel had led to complete breakdown of its defensive and offensive capability and also Pakistani morale. So.
In conclusion, let me reiterate that whilst we will be adhering to the understanding that has been reached today, that is the Indian Army, the Indian Navy, and the Indian Air Force, we remain fully prepared and ever vigilant and committed to defending the sovereignty and integrity of the motherland. Every misadventure by Pakistan has been met with strength, and every future escalation will invite a decisive response. We remain fully operationally ready to launch whatever operations may be required in defense of the nation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. With that, we come to the closure of this presentation. Thank you very much. Chali.
So that was the press briefing by India's armed forces saying that they will adhere, India and its armed forces will adhere to the ceasefire that has been put in place. However, they are ready, they're fully prepared to tackle any misadventure by the Pakistani side, and it is fully capable, and it has the required sort of capabilities and bandwidth to tackle any sort of mischief that Pakistan does, if at all it does. That is the message that has come out from the briefing of the Indian Armed Forces. Like I said, you had Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, Colonel Sophia Qureshi, and you had Commodore Raghu Nair from the Indian Navy, all three from the three wings of India's armed forces, briefing the media. Colonel Sophia Qureshi spoke about the heavy misinformation spread by the Pakistani with regards to what they claim that India has done. India has clarified that there is no such the charges of attacking religious places, and all the charges, that baseless charges that Pakistan is putting on India, are false. In fact, Sophia Qureshi said that we, as in India, has made very significant we have made significant damages to Pakistani military assets. That is what Colonel Sophia Qureshi said. She added that they've also destroyed Pakistan's offensive and defensive capabilities, and reminded the fact that India is a secular nation. She was speaking with regards to the charge that Indian military has damaged mosques in Pakistan. She clarified that and reiterated the fact that India is a secular nation. Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, she said, we have damaged Skardu, Sargodha military bases, and Pakistan has suffered unsustainable losses both on land and in air. And Commodore Raghu Nair said that every misadventure from Pakistan has been met with strength. So that was the briefing from the Ministry of Defense. But again, the big headline, if you're just tuning in, India and Pakistan have confirmed a ceasefire. This comes after US President Donald Trump announced on his platform Truth Social that the United States has sort of brokered this agreement. It has been mediated by the US after a long night of talks. He said this is a full and immediate ceasefire. He said, congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence. Remember, the United States, when US President Donald Trump was asked about it, he said he hopes that it doesn't escalate beyond a point. And that is something that a lot of world leaders have said, but the reaction of US President Donald Trump and the fact that you had US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was in constant touch with both India and Pakistan. From the Indian side, Rubio spoke multiple times with India's Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. And on the American side, on the Pakistani side, I beg your pardon, Marco Rubio on the Pakistani side spoke to Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, his deputy, and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar. And also, this morning, he spoke to Pakistan's Army Chief, General Asim Munir, really the man which some newspapers and magazines say is the jihadi general, and his speech that is really seemed to be the biggest trigger point as to what followed next with regards to Pahalgam attack, and the comments that he made that had created quite a stir. So Marco Rubio spoke to General Asim Munir as well this morning, and following that conversation, Rubio also spoke to S. Jaishankar, and then here's where things stand. India through government sources, what we're given to understand right now, is saying that this was done at the military level between India and Pakistan, that it was the Pakistani DGMO, the Director General of Military Operations, who called up his Indian counterpart and called for de-escalation, following which both India and Pakistan decided for a ceasefire starting 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time today, which is the 10th of May. And the next round of talks, as India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said, that the next round of talks between India and Pakistan will take place on the 12th of May at 1200 hours. This is the update that we have for you at this hour. Of course, do stay tuned to HW News English, like we always say, particularly in the story. We expect a lot of developments going forward from both a domestic and a global standpoint, and reactions have begun coming in already. If you just open your social media and the kind of reactions that you're seeing play out in India and around the world, this will be a very interesting and a very important story to watch out for, and the implications it has for India and Pakistan and the role of America in this entire scheme of things. And it also remains to be seen how long the ceasefire remains in place. One would hope deep down that this is for good, the ceasefire is for good, and you will not see any action on ground. But again, we will hold our horses for the time being. For the time being, both sides have said they will adhere to the ceasefire, and now it remains to be seen where things go on from here. But we'll stop this live session here. Thank you so much for tuning into HW News English. This is Shubham Chauhan signing off. And of course, stay tuned to our channel as we get you all the latest updates on the biggest stories happening around the world. Thanks for watching.